I tried the 10 most recommended settings to improve my gameplay in Valorant. As you might know, I am currently ranked silver and I am trying to improve at the game. I am practicing every day, playing the game, playing ranked, and I thought maybe there are some settings that I'm not using that could improve how I play. First of all, turning off spectators. I don't think this has much of an impact on me, but apparently to some people, it could be very distracting. And to be fair, when I see it, I'm always thinking, how are people even spectating? I remember a while ago I wanted to check if that was possible. For example, if one of my friends was in a game for me to spectate him, but I couldn't figure it out. Anyway, I think this one doesn't matter that much, but I'll leave it off. The next setting is adding clutch mute key. To do that, just go in your setting, and in the voice chat keys, you'll have a clutch mute option. This is very useful. I can't count how many times I was in a clutch and I had a dude on my team just backseating me the whole way through. This solves it. The downside though is you can miss on some important information for your team. You also don't have to activate it every time, and I guess also at low elo people barely communicate anyway, so it won't have much of an impact, but still nice to have. Next, they suggest enabling HRTF, which I already did to be honest. It's a great setting that improves surround sound basically, and it improves your awareness a lot. It helps you hear steps, enemy reloading, and other sound effects way better and more accurately. Here's an example of HRTF in action. Now, have you ever tried to defuse the spike but ended up fat fingering your knife key while trying to just tap 4 and died to the enemy with your knife in hand? Well, maybe that's just me. But the good news is, I can fix this by using auto-equip weapon to strongest. I didn't know this was a setting to be honest, but it's probably gonna be a lifesaver every once in a while. I also think equipping the strongest weapon after using some utility is very useful, especially if you play duelist and you have to get into the action quickly. You won't have to worry about running with your knife out and pulling out your gun again. Out of all the settings I tried, this might be my favorite. The next setting is showing the shooting arrow graph, which I already use. It's very useful, of course. It shows you when you're shooting while moving, which of course we want to minimize. I think it's something that as a beginner you absolutely should have. It gives you instant feedback if you're rushing your shots and can help you correct your movement. Same thing with showing blood. I think this one is even on by default. Showing blood can be very helpful if you're spamming through a box, for example. It'll show if you hit an enemy, which is great information to have. The next setting that's very helpful for gameplay but also for performance is hiding dead bodies. This removes a lot of the visual clutter on screen that you don't necessarily need. I think it's easy to get distracted in this game when there's always a lot going on, so for me it's a good thing to have off. Apparently it's also very useful if you play Sage to know which bodies you can res. Finally, the last setting I changed is first person handedness. If you didn't know, like me, depending on which one of your eyes is dominant, you should have a different setting. So if you're right eye dominant, you should have your gun on the left side, and if you're left eye dominant, you should have it on the right. To check which one of your eyes is dominant, try to do this exercise. Make a circle with your thumb and index finger and look at an object through it. Now mask your left eye and then your right eye. If the object looks in the same position when looking with the right eye but not the left, you are right eye dominant, and the opposite would make you left eye dominant. If you don't see a difference, then you don't have a dominant eye and everything I just said doesn't matter. There are other settings like crosshair and sensitivity, but those are very personal. I use a couple crosshairs, it's either somewhat of a cross or a dot. I'll put the codes for those in the description. My sense is pretty much set at 0.15 and 1600 dpi. I could go lower because I tend to overflate, but also it would become harder to turn corners and all, so I'm keeping it there for the moment. Also for graphics settings, I basically have everything on low or off except multi-threaded rendering, the only reason being performance, and also there are little details like it improves clarity with the Viper roll. On high graphics there's like a fog that makes it harder to see, but that's just a detail. I was suggested to have anti-aliasing to none and anisotropic filtering to 2x, but I really didn't like it. I know it's for performance optimization, but it made the graphics so pixelated that it would distract me while playing, so I changed it back to MSAA 2x and 8x. Finally, I highly suggest you look into agent profiles for keybinds. For example, when I play Jet, I find it way easier to dash using one of my mouse buttons. Same thing for chamber TP and others. So I've tried these settings for the past week and I feel like some of it helped and some of it is just personal preference. I think HRTF, weapons to strongest, and the shooting arrow graph are the most important. HRTF, like I said, makes such a difference. It makes it so much easier to precisely tell where an enemy is going just with the sound of their steps or utilities being thrown. The shooting area graph is great to calm your movement and not rush. Many times I've seen all the blue on the graph and it made me take my time way more, and also while practicing, it's so helpful to make sure that your movement is good and that you're practicing correctly. I think the first person handedness on the left also helped me. This might be a placebo effect or something, because I feel like people don't care and 90% of them are going to leave it on the right anyway, but I feel like I just react and see better overall, so definitely something you want to try out. And for the rest, it's mostly personal preference. You don't necessarily need agent profiles, for example, or a clutch mute key. You can even play on high graphics if that's something you like, but I suggest you look into your settings and just experiment with it. If you want to share your settings, please do. I'm always looking for things to improve, and maybe others could be interested too. I'll also put references to videos and articles I've used to make this video in the description if you're interested. And that's it for me. See you in the next one.